This conference will now be recorded.
So this is a seminar on how to build an excellent career in embedded systems and IoT. Welcome all of you once again. So my name is Jai Kumar. I am hosting this particular webinar from Bangalore. We are part of the organization called Emerging Information Technologies. I'll introduce about the company also shortly. So let me first introduce about the organization, Emerging. Many of you would have already seen about our company. So basically, we are an education organization. We have been into training from 2003. We have been doing various lot of trainings. At a high level, we have two focus areas. One is we impart a longer term job or placement oriented training where people who finish their engineering take up, and then they help to build a career in embedded systems and IoT domain. In the similar lines, we train senior folks from various corporate organizations. We train the people from 2 years all the way up to 15 years of experience in specific domains. So that's been our focus in the training side. In the similar lines, over the past years, we have built quite a lot of products and solutions based on embedded and IoT, and some of the products have been successfully deployed and even won some of the awards in the major award ceremonies, etc. So that's what we do as an organization. And we are a set of people who are very really passionate about education. I'll introduce myself also. And then, as some of you might have heard, there is a Skill India initiative by Government of India. So we are one of the affiliated training partner with the Skill India. We impart the programs which are compliant with the Skill India curriculum. We work with under Skill India, an organization called Electronics Sector Skill Council, who is responsible for electronics and embedded oriented education and training programs. So that's about the company. And let me introduce myself. Some of you might have already seen. That's me. So basically, I graduated from NIT Warangal. It was called Regional Engineering College, or REC, when we were studying. I graduated in computer science and passed out in the year 2001. It was a very interesting times when we passed out. We all had our campus jobs, but by the time we passed out, there was a 2000 recession where the dot-com and the telecom and also the 9/11 attacks. There's a series of such events happened, which gave us very interesting times just after our college. So I'll talk about the three recession experience or three challenging times which I have seen in my career so far. Just after pass out, we had that, and followed by the 2008 Lehman Brothers issue, and then currently probably we are facing a bigger and more challenging one in terms of COVID-19. So I've been in the embedded, worked in the embedded organizations. Started my career with the company called Ishoni Networks. So where we're building the broadband modems. Broadband modems are what we use in our homes today. But before that, there was a narrow band or a dial-up connection, what we used to call. So broadband came and revolutionized the last mile internet connectivity speed. So we were building the devices which we are pretty much using in our homes today. And after working there, I moved on to HP, that is Hewlett Packard. I spent about 7.5 years there working on HP's inkjet printers, primarily working on the connectivity side, embedded software of the connectivity side, including the protocols and network layers, network applications, etc. And followed by HP, I went to Huawei. In Huawei, I worked for about 3 years plus, where I was heading a larger team, building the embedded Linux portfolio of Huawei. As you know, Huawei has been a telecommunication company, and they had a lot of products in the telecommunication, which they all wanted to migrate to Linux due to a lot of advantages that they have in terms of being open source and license free, etc. So I was heading that initiative, and that was my last corporate job. So from my college days, I've been very passionate about education, and Emergy is more, started by my friends. I've been associated with Emergy for quite some time by then itself. Then I bid a goodbye to my corporate career and joined Team Emergy, and I'm one of the core team members in Emergy today. So I'm really passionate about the education and imparting the skill in the engineering graduates. So I am very keen to share my knowledge and experience with broader audience. In fact, this webinar is also one of the initiatives in the similar direction. Apart from the earlier experiences where I used to share a good number of our learnings and sharing via physical conferences. So now that we are all locked down, so we are exploring the route of virtual seminars. So that's about myself and our organization, Emergy. So let me also turn on my video so that you can see me. Are you able to see me, guys? Am I visible now? Okay. So
Yes,
just to
sir.
keep the interactivity, just to keep the interactivity, I thought I will turn on my camera also, so that you can see who is the person. Maybe one difference you could see that compared to the photograph, I lost more hair that was taken a few years back. I'm still a very young old man. Okay, whatever you can call. So my request is, I'll be pausing at different intervals. Request all of you to keep your video and audio on mute. Let us only interact through the chat window. I'll be pausing from time to time and taking questions. In case you have something to discuss with, you can go ahead and post it in the chat window, and then appropriately I will stop by and answer. Right. So let us follow these protocols, which we have been doing, in the other webinars also. Okay. So let me start the webinar. See, as you know, the current situation, which is quite challenging now. All of you are. That's the reason I asked the first question of where you are attending this conference from. Right, we are all locked up all over the country and thinking about quite a lot of things about your future. Right. Some of the questions include: we are getting into recession. What about my future? Right, and then too many job losses as I open my social media and news channels, etc. Every day there is a lot of people who are losing their jobs. And when it is going to end, people initially we thought it's going to be 3 weeks lockdown, then it became 6 weeks. It's still continuing, and cases are increasing across the country, across the globe. So when it is going to end, right? There is also a challenge of what I can do in this given scenario, right? What is the steps that I can do, whatever the limited amount of resources and the time and the access that I have, and also who can help, or at least somebody can show me a direction in which we can proceed. So these are all the at least the top 5 questions from my perspective. We have put it in the slide. So I would like to pause here and take some questions. What other questions that are running in your head, you can just post it in the chat window in the similar lines, so that we can start our discussion itself with the interactive session. Can I get some questions, please? What else running in your mind? About your career? Okay. Yeah, Sandeep saying I am confused how things will take course ahead. Definitely, Sandeep. These are all challenging times. Things are still, I would say, not in a clear state when it comes to companies hiring, because all the countries and organizations, their priority is to save human lives. That's where they're all busy with, and try to operate with as many resources as possible by maintaining social distancing, etc. Right? I think that's a good way to express yourself, Sandeep. Then Ritesh says, is the placement scenario expected to improve by 2022? See, Ritesh, nobody can predict when things will get into what shape, because we you may hear about pundits telling how things will shake up. Economics are talking about, and job placement companies are talking about. So it will be a little bit premature to basically comment on when it will end, the timeline. Okay, so only thing we can do is wait and watch. I would put it like that. Okay, Sandeep is asking, are companies hiring now? Yes, companies are hiring for a specific skill set. Earlier, there were more jobs chasing less number of people. So even if it is not a core embedded or IoT job, people used to get some or the other job, which was happening quite frequently. So now the situation is reversed. There are lesser number of jobs chasing more number of people, right? So there is competition that is happening. So definitely there are areas like what you look at the embedded and IoT domain, which we are aware of. In the similar lines, I'm seeing companies even working in AI, ML, they continue to hire. So companies are hiring, they're hiring freshers also. I'm not talking about experienced people. Definitely they're hiring freshers as well, right? So Puneet is telling, is this recession fatal? We cannot use the word called fatal, Puneet, because everybody is going through this challenge, right? But definitely this recession is changing a lot of things, right? For example, the way how the companies used to function, how the businesses used to operate. I'll also show some use cases as far as embedded is concerned. It is also bringing in new use cases, you know. So I would say more than looking at as a fatal, I would say, you know, look at it as a, what is that we can do in these challenging times so that we can take on once the situation improves, right? Once things get better, right? I would put it like that. So Rahul asks, how can we build ourselves in the upcoming days? I think that's a right question, or I would say, I wouldn't say, I would say the right way to look at it. There is very less that we can do in a given scenario, guys. You know, we can't go and invent a vaccine tomorrow, or we cannot go and put some kind of a what do you say, some magic where the whole world becomes corona free. We are not empowered to do that, right? So what we can do to improve our skills, right? How we can take this up. One thing that all of us will agree with me is that we have a lot of time now. Okay, we're all locked down at inside home. In fact, having more time has become a problem now, right? So how can we utilize this particular challenging time will be our focus for this particular talk as well. Just hold on, I will talk more on those lines. Adarsh is asking, are companies still hiring candidates? Yes, Adarsh, I already mentioned companies do hire. Okay. What about industrial training and internships? Yes, internships also is happening. In fact, we ourselves launching an online internship program. My colleague Smita is here. She will get in touch with you if you wanted to know more details. Okay, you can also reach out and check out our website. And it's not updated in the website yet because it's still, we are in the process of forming the details. Okay, it's available, Utkarsh, right? So during lockdown, only sales internship going on. I don't know, Ritesh, basically, because some internships are happening. For example, digital marketing. I'm seeing in content writing, graphic design, programming internships. In fact, even yesterday, I was looking into a couple of very niche technology startups who are hiring interns. Okay, I see broad areas of internship are happening as far as our knowledge is concerned by looking into the market. Internships are available broadly, which goes beyond sales and marketing. Okay. So Denim is asking, due to lack of demand for employees, what should a fresher do to compete against the experienced people? So Denim, I would say it's not about competing, it's about skilling yourself. See, any team, if you say they're forming a 10-member team, they'll have a distribution of how many fresher they should have, how many senior engineers they should have, how many tech leads they should have, how many managers they should have. So that kind of a teams, what you call the pyramid structure, is kind of already fixed, right? What you can do is, given the fresher market, how you can differentiate yourself, right? Anyways, you cannot just like that substitute somebody's experience of 3 years or 5 years being a fresher. That's going to be a really a challenging task. But given the fresher market and for the specific skill sets where the hiring is happening, how you can equip yourself, I would request you can focus in that direction, which will also release your tension and release your concern and focus more on what you can do and gain advantage of the situation. I would put it like that, right? So Ribu is asking, what are all the upcoming challenges that we might face in upcoming days? So Ribu, one obvious thing is, as I mentioned a few minutes back, so the number of jobs versus number of candidates, right? The ratio is again going to change drastically. In India alone, as you know, we produce about 1.5 million or 15 lakhs engineers per year. So now those many 15 lakh engineers are coming, and the number of jobs are becoming less. Or even you might have seen even some of the companies which are working on the latest last mile delivery, or companies like in India, if you see, majority of them are last mile deliveries, be it Swiggy or be it Zomato or many other companies, right? So even if you look at them, right, wherever they made their offers already in the campuses, they're either revoking their offers or postponing their joining dates, right? So the job market is going to get more and more competitive, even for a fresher market. So the getting the job will become challenging. It's not an impossible thing, but people who have the right skill set would be the one who will be obtaining the job. So I'll put it across like that, Ribu. Okay. So Utkarsh says, share, sure, and Utkarsh says, please share the link. Okay, Utkarsh, my colleague, will get in touch with you. Okay. So Vinod is asking, what is the eligibility to pursue embedded system course? So Vinod, basically there is at least we would expect people to have a first class engineering degree, and also you should have finished your engineering to be eligible for placements, right? But if you are in third year, or if you are about to finish your final semester and you are held up because of the current COVID situation, you are very well can take up this course. There is no issue at all with respect to pursuing the course. Okay. So Sandeep is asking, as a fresher, how can I skill up and safeguard myself to get a good job in embedded or IoT in this situation? So you can only safeguard yourself provided you have a good resume, Sandeep, right? Okay. So when I say good resume, what do you mean by good resume, right? If you look at the majority of the fresher resume, I keep telling in every webinar that 95% of the information what you have in your resume, it is of less interest for companies, right? Because you write about personal details, you write about education details, your hobbies, etc., which is not of much important, right? Can you showcase some skill set, whether it's an embedded or any other area, and then you can demonstrate good number of projects in your resume, right? Only that is going to interest the recruiter, right? Whether it's an IoT domain, embedded domain, any other domain, could be even web development domain, right? So you do have the necessary projects to showcase that. So that's going to be the way using which you can not only safeguard yourself, and also you can leap forward by taking this particular situation as an advantage. I will put like that, Sandeep. Okay. Ritesh is telling, sir, as our PM stated that he is promoting startups in India, how do we avail of that opportunity? So, Ritesh, I'm not specifically want to comment upon what PM has mentioned, because that is a very broad way to look into that, because he is looking at country size of 130 crore people, right? But I will just show you a few slides, couple of slides later, that what are all the more innovative use cases that are getting created, which probably did not exist even 2 months back, due to coronavirus situation, right? So those use cases are those problem statements are pushing companies to come up with innovative ideas and solutions, where a lot of startups are already started working on it, right? I don't see they're yet to start. Good amount of the startups are already working on it, and how you can gain that benefit only by having the necessary skill set. Okay, there's a high potential that those startups may hire person like you, provided you have the right set of skill set with you. Okay, so skill is going to be the only weapon, guys. Okay, as in the current, especially in the current situation, it's always been the weapon. But in the current situation, I can't reiterate, or I cannot overemphasize the importance of skills. Skills are, and I'm not telling you guys are not skilled, right? I'm telling good number of you have are engineers. You finished your engineering, okay, or you are about to finish, or you're in a third year. You've gone through so many subjects, right? Okay, can you take a quick poll in the chat window? How many subjects you studied in your engineering? Okay, can you type how many subjects? You can include lab also. Okay, can you get some numbers? How many subjects you studied in your engineering? Let me also sip some water in the meantime. Six subjects, okay. 6 or 60, yeah, about 45. Yeah, that's a good number. Okay, so we studied 45 to 50 subjects. So I'm not telling you guys are not, you have qualification and knowledge, but that will not help you to sail through this recession. It's about basically having the right set of skill. It's like you can refer to a similarity of swimming. You can come and tell, yeah, I know swimming, or rather, I've written an exam about swimming, or I have taken a YouTube video about swimming, right? Unless otherwise you get into the water, you cannot learn swimming. The same way, you can tell, I learned programming, I know this, I know that. but unless you have something to demonstrate, it's going to only remain in papers, right? So that's a challenge, right? All right. So thanks for all the questions. You can keep the question coming in the window. I will keep pausing and taking more questions. And another request to all of you, right? You might have already seen we are about 30 minutes in the session, and we originally planned to have the session at 1 hour, right? So most of our webinars get extended because my idea is not to run the slides, but to ensure that each and every query is answered and you all go with a positive and motivated mind so that you can take some action after this particular webinar. So in case the timeline gets extended, I would request you to cooperate, stay in the particular webinar. And just to announce, basically, people who are attending the seminar till the end, all of you will get a participation certificate, a soft copy of the certificate, which will reach you today itself, one. And then the second thing is, I'll also be running a quiz by the end of this particular webinar. You can answer the quiz and we will finalize the winners. Those winners also will get some surprise goodies from us. We will try to ship it as soon as possible because courier services are just resuming. We have in the past webinars we couldn't ship it yet due to the situation, but we announced it. So we'll ensure that those goodies also reaches you as soon as things resume. So those two are, I would say, more motivation factor apart from the knowledge and the interaction part to stay till the end of the webinar. Okay, so please don't drop out, and we'll keep coming back with more questions. Right. So let us look at this particular situation. As I told in the beginning of my introduction, in the presentation, that in the year 2001 was more about the 9/11 attack and many other issues have happened. Right. What has resulted in? That has resulted in more jobs getting created in the other areas. For example, previous to year 2000, there were these what you call Y2K jobs. Many people were fearing that the computers will cease exist by 2000, and a lot of jobs are happening in that particular Y2K space, right? So now what happened after the 2001 year, right? There are a lot of things have changed, and the outsourcing became a mainstream, and a lot of companies in India started getting big projects, and they started growing like anything, right? So that was the advantage. Even though at that particular time, when I mentioned 2000, where some of us or even some of my very close friends go through trouble because of the joining dates getting postponed, etc. Right? There is also a positive side of 9/11, which has created more of outsourcing. So in the similar lines, if you look at 2008, right, the Lehman Brothers recession, which probably some of you are aware or even seen that. So that has opened up a huge potential for cloud computing, right? So today, if you look at right from storing your information in Google Drive to all the way up to even running in this particular webinar, right? Where were these tools probably 10 years ago, right? Now, thanks to cloud computing, sitting in your homes, you're able to attend your webinars thanks to this wonderful tool called GoToMeeting or any other tools like Zoom or anything else, right? So these are all made possible because companies could innovate around the cloud computing technology. So that was the 2008 wave, we can think of. And now we are talking about 2020, we are in the wait and watch situation, right? And as we are waiting and watching, as I told a few minutes back, let us think about these cases. This slide you guys need to watch carefully, especially some of you raised a question, I think Ritesh raised the question about startups, etc., right? So some of the use cases I'm going to show here are emerging after this particular COVID-19 situation. Just a second. Okay. After this COVID-19 situation, these use cases are emerging, right? Let us think about this. Okay. What about the social distancing in an autonomous car, right? All of you would have heard about autonomous car, right? Which are self-driving car. Now, in that particular car, how can you ensure that social distancing is happening, right? Which is becoming a huge use case for these companies which are working, right? Which will involve how do we sense that people are sitting in? How do we detect that if there are more of them on board the car? How do you basically take some actions, whether alerting or even stopping the car, whatever it is, right? So which involves a lot of combination of sensors and embedded systems, right? Which is redefining the use case of social distancing, right? Second, think about the wearables, right? All these days, we've been thinking about wearables like Fitbit, which will report your heartbeat or which will report your BP levels, etc. Now, wearables are taking a new direction where how can we even predict or how can we even proactively detect if somebody is demonstrating a pandemic situation, health situation, right? Countries like Israel are talking about having a biometric chip in all their citizens, right? Look at the way how it is changing. Okay? Third one, think about robots, right? Earlier, we were thinking about robots in some industrial situation and supply chain where it has to move certain parts. People say instead of using a human being, I'll use a robot to make things faster and easier. But think about the new use cases that are emerging in robots where there is a human touch. Think about restaurant industry, right? Okay, people in Bangalore, some of you would have already known or read at least a restaurant is being used in robots are used in a restaurant, right? Okay, now those use cases will get redefined where even distributing the medicines to the patients who are affected by pandemic, right? Robots are playing an incrementally more important role, and in the coming days it's going to only increase where you want to reduce the human touch or you want to reduce the risk, right? And then you wanted to replace with by robots. And robots has got such a great set of embedded systems and things coming into picture, right? Okay. And all of a sudden, okay, your telecommunication is becoming hot, guys. Okay, because good number of the companies are moving their workforce to their home because all of them are working from home, and suddenly the need to have a higher capable or higher bandwidth network as becoming a mainstream. Okay, a few years back we were thinking, oh, telecom sab ho gaya, we are already in 4G, people are not making money. All of a sudden you see, in order to handle so much of traffic, and companies are expecting that this work from home scenario will remain even if they resume full time. In fact, I know personally few companies, they vacated their offices and they given back the office to the owner, and all their employees are working from home. Okay, and imagine the amount of network load it is going to take, right? So suddenly there is a need to invent the telecommunication and networking, so that and other important thing that it will also come out is the security, right? Now so much of data is going on, all the hackers are very happy because the more data they see, they can hack around and do so much of messy stuff, right? In fact, a couple of days back, I was listening to a video about the Airtel, one of the senior person in Airtel, about how their team is taking care of not only the network is up, right? The network stays secure because we don't see that, right? As we are sitting, all the data is going in the wire. Anybody can do anything with the data, right? So network security, networking, telecommunication, it is taking all together in a new direction, right? Which didn't exist probably 2 months back, right? Last but not the least, we are talking about the low-cost ventilators, personal protection equipments, etc. How can we make it more cheaper and more easily accessible to, especially countries like India, where there is a mass population, right? I'm just showing a small snippet of how the use cases are changing, and imagine in each and every area, easily half a dozen startups can come, and even the bigger companies who are existing can redefine their product portfolio. I was reading that one of the big companies which has been selling a wearable device are coming up with a specific device to even an advanced version of what you call this Arogya Setu, which a much more advanced version which you can not only take care of yourself but also monitor the situation around you, so that the protective or the proactive measures can be taken by an individual to keep himself or herself safe from the pandemic or getting attacked by a pandemic, right? So these things are happening, and as you can see, predominantly the embedded systems and IoT has got to do a lot of role in all these technologies, right? Okay, so this is something which you can take away as a key output that is coming because of the current situation, right? Is it fine, guys? Are you able to follow me? Can you get some responses in the chat? Is the pace okay? Are you able to understand and comprehend what I'm telling? Okay. Ribu says yes. Denim says yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your response. Let me move on. So the question also comes is, why embedded and IoT are here to stay? Okay, because as I told, this is my third recession or whatever I'm facing, right? Personally, I'm sure some of the senior folks might have seen more. Every time there is a saying that, oh no, these jobs are going to go away, this technology is not going to stay. As I told, the previous slide itself is a testimony that it is here to stay. Okay? New use cases will involve more sophisticated technology. Yes, the low-end jobs will go because those jobs will be replaced with chatbots. Those jobs may be replaced with some artificial intelligence application, etc. Okay, nobody can replace a hardcore embedded developer or an IoT developer with a robot. That's not possible, because the nature of job and the skill set that is required to do the job is quite complicated, right? So that's one of the reasons why we can say with all the confidence that embedded and IoT jobs are here to stay. Yes, in the short term, we are seeing a slump in the jobs. Okay, in fact, I would say as we speak, in the last I would say 2 to 3 weeks itself, about 8 to 10 companies have already opened up their hiring, and our people who are taking up the courses with us already attending those interviews, right? Of course, majority of the interviews are via virtual mode. They are taking the written test online, followed by a video based interview, because companies also still not opened up 100% for external candidates, etc. But jobs are here to stay. Thanks to some of the use cases that I mentioned in the previous slide, it's only going to go up, right? So you can definitely watch out for that. So some of the statistics which we compiled from various resources like NASCOM report, and as I told, we work with Skill India. We do get a lot of statistics and inputs from them also. So by looking into this, right, this is some kind of a projection which we compiled by looking into various reports, the kind of electronics market in India, and also now there's been a lot of talks going about making a self-reliant India, or a lot of initiatives. Hopefully, these type of initiatives will result in more focus for sectors like electronics, right, which will create more manufacturing and design jobs, right, and it is going to grow, right. And we also see a lot of companies planning to shift their manufacturing base to India. So once they shift the manufacturing, the next natural thing that will shift is the research and development or the product development activity, right? So at least the last point would be worth noting down for you guys. There are more than 7 lakhs embedded system job available in the market. I'm talking about Indian market, right? So this is something which you can take it as a key input for yourself. I'm talking about this is only a specific domain like embedded and IoT, right? So there are, I'm telling you, even statistics says good number of jobs are available across all the domains, be it consumer electronics, communication equipments. I spoke about the telecom part few minutes back. Semiconductor companies, be it Qualcomm or NXP or Intel, they need to come up with new generation chipsets, okay, because as you know, even when you have an artificial intelligence and machine learning based application, that application eventually require more powerful hardware and the embedded firmware to drive that, right? If the hardware is not, hardware is something like base, right, and the embedded firmware is something like the heart which runs the whole application. So unless those applications are given that much amount of resources, they cannot run and perform the operation at computing at that scale. So all these things require a lot of work in across all the areas, which includes the semiconductor and the embedded systems, one of the significant component in that, right? So that's about the jobs landscape. You can go through this slide. I'll share this slide deck also today. Okay, it will reach you via email. In the similar lines, we also talk about IoT. IoT is again, there could be some questions about what is embedded and what is IoT, right? I'm pretty sure many of you will have a question. Are they similar? Are they different? If they're different, how they're different, etc. If you give me some more time, I will run through some slides where we can call out the difference between those embedded and IoT jobs, right? But this is again a landscape of IoT job market, and the report is being published by NASCOM. You can see the talent, the need for IoT talent has gone up by 300% in the last 3 years. And IoT is going to create more than 10 million jobs in the coming few years. When I say a few 10 million jobs, it's again across all the things: design, development, manufacturing, distribution, sales, support, etc. Right? When they talk about jobs, they talk about across the entire life cycle of the product, where definitely development and testing or whatever the engineering jobs also is going to be more. And all of you will know, I don't need to basically reiterate further. If you look at the domains, right, IoT especially is applied across all the domains. Okay, you talk about retail. Okay, if you are going to a shopping or going to a retail shop, how it is altering the whole solution, right? How you are, I don't know how many of you seen, right? There are concepts like self-checkout shops where you can go buy your own stuff. You can only do a self billing and come out. So those type of retail experiences are coming these days. Okay. And we talk about environment, be it usage of efficient energy, making the planet more green, or measuring the carbon footprint of the particular company. So in order to measure all these things, the IoT and embedded coming into picture. Okay. And I think all of you would have heard about industrial IoT or IIoT, where it's about managing or monitoring the machines, ensuring that the industrial house is producing the required amount of productivity by end of the day, etc. So a lot of industrial based IoT solutions are emerging. Smart city, I hope you know it's about whether it's managing the street light efficiently or any other solution in that area. Okay, sorry. Okay, 1 second. Something. You talk about education, right? Thanks to this particular pandemic, you are also seeing how education is getting changed, right? From school education, college education, people are questioning, do you really require colleges to give degree, etc. Right? It is changing a lot. And I already called out in my previous slide about the automotive or car. It is going to go through major change. Power, efficient power usage, healthcare. Think about how it is going to change. Be it wearable devices, remote diagnosis, or any similar such solutions. It is changing. Logistics, how you move the things from one place to another. Smart home, agriculture, etc. So all I'm trying to say is there is not a single domain where the technology or the solutions are not getting enabled. Especially, let me give more emphasis for IoT here, right? IoT is more of a interconnection of different technologies, where embedded plays an important role. But along with embedded, you also have cloud computing, and you also have mobile or web applications also coming into picture. So as a combined effort or a combined solution, right, many of these domains are also getting changed due to the IoT solutions, right? So the solutions are getting deployable across all these areas, right? So that's one part you can take away, right? So let me talk about the career possibilities now. Before that, I see a question. I can also take few questions here. So Ritesh is asking, sir, what's going to be the prospects of FPGA and VLSI industry in India? So Ritesh, good question. VLSI is also a very good domain, I would say, because a good number of semiconductor companies, name it the bigger ones, right? NXP, Intel, Qualcomm, AMD, right? These type of organizations are having their embedded systems, their VLSI design houses in India, right? In Bangalore or Gurgaon, any other places, right? Okay. So that jobs also will continue to grow. In fact, they are more fueled by, as I told few minutes back, due to the artificial intelligence and machine learning, the hardware has become altogether a new paradigm now. They need to drive those applications, which would require more powerful hardware or more powerful chipsets. Not only that, along with that, there is a lot of development ecosystem, etc., to make the development faster. Okay, even company like Nvidia, okay, who've been uh, popular for making graphic chipsets for a long time. If you go and look into their website now, they all talk about AI and ML, right? So definitely that particular industry has got a good future in India and also global. Okay, having said that, the number of jobs, okay, there are two ways to look at it, right? One is the salary package and the career growth, etc. Another part is the number of jobs. So the number of jobs in VLSI will continue to be a limited number. Okay, I would put something like this, right? So the number of jobs in VLSI will be relatively lesser than embedded. The number of jobs in embedded will be relatively less compared to any other IT or application development. So the number of jobs will be less, but yes, it will offer good number of opportunities going forward. And in fact, some of the VLSI engineers are getting paid very high. For example, analog design guys, right? They're very rare to get such people in India. So companies are struggling to hire for such specific skills. So definitely VLSI is something we should look at it. Okay, in form of having a career for yourself. Yeah, thanks, Ritesh. Any other questions, guys? I can take few questions before I move on. Okay. So Vinod is asking, sir, do you have virtual classroom facility? Yes, so Vinod, all our courses currently we have moved it entirely online. Students are already taking their courses similar to how you are sitting at home and attending this webinar. Our classes are live virtual classes using which they are delivering, because we don't want any take any chance of delivering in the classroom. And also different state governments have got different restrictions that the interstate travel has not become so smooth yet. So only way we can learn is via online. So which is what our team is already doing. Our team of mentors are already delivering those courses online. Okay, so you can check out our website also if you want more details. That's a question from Vinod. Yeah, thanks Ritesh. Thanks for your message. Any other questions, guys? I can take before I move on to the next segment of career. Any more questions? Okay. So Adarsh is asking how long will it take to learn programming language in embedded systems, right? So I would say not a programming languages, I would say programming language. So when we talk about embedded, we strongly recommend you learn one programming language and learn it very well. So that is nothing but the C programming language, right? Because there has been a fad among some of the people that they want to learn many programming language, right? For example, you have C, C++, Java. You have a big, list of classes, programming languages from where you can learn, right? So please don't do that. You focus on one programming language and learn it very well. I would say you need to at least spend about 3 months time to learn only C programming, okay? To master C programming. In the end of this particular webinar, I'll also show you some links which is freely available in our website. You can go download and you can do a learning on yourself also. Absolutely fine, right? Okay, so you can at least, I would say 3 months solid investment, at least 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day you need to put to become a master in, at least I won't say master, at least get a hands-on perspective in C programming. Okay. Then Sandeep is asking, is virtual classes are effective to become hands-on and get into a job? Yes, Sandeep. Okay, that could be another question among many of you. When I attend an online class, it looks okay for attending a webinar, or probably some of you are attending this from your mobile phones. Somebody are sitting, somebody are lying down, whatever may be the shape you are taking this course. I'm absolutely fine with that, right? But can the same philosophy can be applied when you are delivering a hands-on practical course, that too in an area like embedded system? I would say no. Okay? It's not like a webinar where you can keep talking and you guys listening and questioning. Of course, the interaction and questions are good, but that's not going to get you a job, right? So the jobs are going to come when you acquire practical skills. And in order to acquire the practical skills, it's not only going to stop with the classroom. So basically, our course is divided into two pieces. One is the classroom delivery, which is like a webinar model, what I'm talking about, where the participants will get the required knowledge, the theoretical base, and then some kind of a mentor interaction, etc. But I would say that's a small piece, right? I would say the bigger piece and the most important piece is about what you guys are producing, right? In terms of doing the assignments and submitting those assignments. As I mentioned, at least ensuring that 7 to 8 projects are mentioned in the resume, right? And even getting the workshop of how to write a resume, right? So all those information is delivered after the classroom, which means to say we have a whole suite of digital tools, be it in form of learning management system, or even for that matter, you couldn't attend the class and you wanted to clarify some doubts to the mentor, or you submitted something and the mentor wanted to give you feedback. So that's where the major action is happening as of now. So we believe by giving a webinar based concept orientation plus combined with the larger piece, which is nothing but the intervention, support, the doubt clearing and assessment, etc., will pump up your skill set, which is the critical factor to get into job. Not only this job, any job for that matter, right? You need to get practical. So that would be my answer, Sandeep. So Bhavana is asking, what is the prerequisite for this course? So Bhavana, we would expect people to come, people to be from an engineering background, and if you're looking for a placement support immediately, you should have at least in the 2019 pass out, 80 or any other pass out, you should be at least you should have finished your engineering, right? And even if you're not done in an engineering, you are in your third year or second year, then also you can attend your course and you can start attending your placements after your engineering is completed. Okay? So that would be the prerequisite. My colleague Smita will also take a note on this. She will also share you more information later. You can discuss with her more details. Okay. And Ritesh is asking, is not Python preferred for working with Raspberry Pi? See, Ritesh, I won't say whether it is Python or C. Look at it from a problem solving perspective. Okay? Think like programming languages as a natural language. So I'm now talking to you in English. I think probably you are based out of Kolkata, probably your mother tongue would be Bengali, right? Okay. So English or Hindi or Bengali are mechanism to communicate. But what more important to you is that what is it you are communicating, right? So that rather than telling that I know Python or I know C, okay, can I solve a problem using C or can I solve a problem using Python? So that's going to be the approach you should be thinking, right? Don't think in terms of whether this combination is. I would say Python is used in Raspberry Pi, C is also used in Raspberry Pi, okay? And that whether to use Python or C, it purely depends on that particular problem you are trying to solve, whichever is the right set of tool to solve, whether it's a programming language X or Y, companies will choose to build a product based on that, right? So rather than focusing on that, my request, all of you being a fresher, you may be really excited to learn many programming languages. I don't want to discourage you, but I would say even you take Python, okay, if not for C, right? Take Python, go in deep, spend 3 months only doing Python, nothing else. And tomorrow if I come and give you any problem, you should be able to solve using Python and all the libraries, methods, object oriented methodologies, etc. Right? Can you write a code? That should be the approach, I would say. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Right. So Sandeep is asking, will we be working on projects in your online courses? If yes, how many? Yes, Sandeep, definitely. As I told you, the classroom delivery followed by the assignments. And once you, in each and every course, you will be doing about 30 to 40 assignments. Followed by that, you will be doing a project, a module specific project. If you look at the overall course, you should be able to do at least 7 to 8 projects and represent them in your resume. And please note, this is not like your college project where many of you do a purchasing of the project, right? You go to a project center and buy. It's not, you are not going to buy, we're not going to sell anything. You are supposed to basically implement that particular project, right? So that I would say 7 to 8 projects in this course. So Denim is asking, are projects required? Is internships enough to build a good resume? Denim, I am not telling whether it is internship or project space, right? End of the day, the company wants to know what you know well, right? Have you gained any practical experience by doing anything? It could be internship, it could be an online course, it could be you might have done a self-learning and did it. It doesn't matter. But can you demonstrate something? And what is the proof that you know, right? One of the important proof is that you worked on a good number of projects, right? Even if you're internship, even if you can't join as an intern, what is it you are going to do? You're going to learn some knowledge and implement some project, right? So projects are the testimony that you know something, right? You really done something. And when they ask some questions about project, some technicalities of that, if you're able to answer, right, then that gives a confidence to the recruiting company that, oh, this guy not only knows the skills, be it in form of C programming or Raspberry Pi programming or Linux programming, he also implemented this many number of projects. So that's going to be the added advantage for you, right? Okay, that way, that's the reason why we give a lot of stress to build on projects. I hope, Denim, that answers your questions. So Rahul is asking, so we can go with any programming language. Yes, Rahul, I would say since you are attending a webinar about embedded, I would request you to choose between either C or Python. Okay. Of course, there are a lot of many. You talk about JavaScript, etc. I would choose between any one. Okay. But important thing, as I told, please let me repeat. Don't get me wrong if I tell the same thing 5 times. Right. Ensure that you spend significant time, do a lot of hands-on exercises and assignments, and build projects. Okay. And a lot of resources available. Some of them I'll share. But ensure that you build them to get yourself to showcase your skill set to the recruiter. Okay. Rahul, yeah, embedded. I'm talking about embedded and IoT only, right? Python and definitely C is the other most important candidate. C and Python would be a very good combination for a embedded and IoT. If you wanted to have an option, I would say, have C and Python. That would be the real killer combination in terms of skill set. Okay. And then how can we get good projects considering we are limited to our homes? So remove some of the projects we will share you. Okay, you can take up that and then implement on your own. And there are also some links which we can share. You can reach out to us. We can give you some links using which also you can try out those projects. There are tons of projects available where there are lesser number of people to implement. Right? Okay, you can. There are enough avenues are there. Ribu. We can point you out to that. So Sandeep is asking, how can you get support or doubt clarification in online mode? As I already told you, Sandeep, post the classroom. That is only, I would say, the 30% of the course what we are offering. The 70% of the course is going to be on those. So we have a very structured and planned doubt clearing sessions with our mentors. They're reachable via the chat or a WhatsApp kind of or a forum which is part of our LMS, right? So using these type of channels, you can reach out to the mentors and the mentors will clarify your doubts. In worst case, nothing is working out. They'll set up a time with you 1:1 or 1:n, where the set of students have the similar doubt. They'll group them and run a small webinar or discussion session like this, and then clarify your doubts, right? So we are opened up all possible tools and mechanisms as a part of our online course, so that you can choose the best one which works out for you and get the maximum benefit out of it, right? Okay. So that's a question. Any other question? Maybe I'll pause a minute before I resume my slide, or at least can I get some response? How are you finding? Is it are you able to comprehend again? Is it fine? Are you able to understand what we are discussing here, folks? Can I get some response? Okay, Adarsh says yes. Rahul says fine. Denim says yes. Bhavana, Ritesh, Vaibhav. Okay, all right, guys. Yeah. So let me proceed to the career point of view. Right now, we understood the high-level picture about the industry and the job and where it is heading and all. Let us come one level down, right, and look into the next thing about career. What does it mean for you? Okay. So now the question, lot of you I see having is that about the job role, right? There's a lot of confusion about design engineer, core engineer, IoT engineer. So let me clarify the job role. Okay. So at a high level, if you look at embedded and IoT jobs, you can divide into two areas. One is the software jobs and the hardware jobs. And the hardware jobs, I'm sure most of you will be already very clear in terms of VLSI design, the FPGA design or board design, etc., which is entirely about the hardware part of it, right? And I'm not much aware of that, so I'm not add much details about that. Let us take a deeper look into the software aspect, which is more relevant and more. I am personally aware about that also with my experience, right? So in software, if you look at, right, in India, we have been known for our software expertise, right? If you look at other countries, even if you look at globally, there are countries like, for example, Taiwan, right? Countries like Japan, countries like even for that matter, Malaysia, Singapore. They have much stronger hardware expertise as a country. I'm not talking about a company. As a country, these countries have got much more hardware expertise. And I don't need to talk about the bigger brother China here, right? Okay, their core expertise is being on hardware. On the contrary, if you look at countries like India or even for that matter Israel or any other country, similar countries, they are more popular for the software, right? That's why if you look at today the number of jobs, majority of the jobs are in the software side. Okay? Again, software you can divide into two. One is what you call core software, which is about the embedded software, firmware development, etc. And the other part is the application software, which probably you guys will call it as a IT job, right? Now let us look into the core job, which is our focus now. And there are a lot of these names are there. Often I am seeing, being an entry level engineer, people get a lot of fascination about the designation or what is printed in your visiting card. I don't say that's wrong, because when you get into a job, you want to really take a pride that you achieved something. And I clearly remember in my first job, it took some time for the administration team to print my visiting card, right? I was so excited, or I was so eager to get my visiting card, so that you go and distribute it to your friends and family and say, hey, look at this, this is what I am, right? So that's quite natural for you to have that excitement, okay? But what more important as you move forward is that what is this particular role you are going to play. Okay, one end you have this designation, and another end you have these domains, right? Be it automotive, retail, or the other slide where I shown where IoT solutions are. One second, guys. Okay, are applied almost all the domains that you can think of, right? So you have a combination like this. Okay, the left hand side is role, the right hand side is a domain. Okay, so this will give you a lot of this combination. For example, you can be a design engineer in a consumer electronics company. Okay, I'm talking about one combination. You can think about test engineer in an automotive company, right? or you can be an integration engineer in a retail company, etc. So there is a permutation and combination exists. The left side is the role and the right side is the domain, right? My request is please look at it beyond the designation. See the role that you are going to play. Okay, so that's only is going to come long way. I can even give you a designation of, let us say, what do you say, you are an expert engineer, right? No problem. But being an expert engineer, are you doing an expert job in the company on a day-to-day basis? So that's what matters, right? So I request being an entry-level engineer not to get too fancy about the designation. Well, in fact, sometime back, one of the students got job and he was very upset. Okay, he got a job in a good embedded company and he came and met me. He said, "Sir, I'm really upset." I said, "Why?" He said, "I am doing an embedded job, but my visiting card says software engineer. I never wanted to become a software engineer. I want to become a core engineer. They should give me the designation as core engineer or embedded engineer," right? I said, how does it matter, right? As a company, they can't keep printing visiting card as per the role. That way, they need to print thousands of visiting card. They'll have some templates. Visiting card is for external people to just share, right? I said not to get too bogged out about the what is there in your business card, right, or visiting card. So my request is to look at it as an engineer. What are you doing day-to-day basis? Are you doing a design role? Are you doing a testing role? Are you dealing with hardware? Are you dealing with software? Are you dealing with a firmware, right? So if you have that focus in that way, it will be better. So I want to demystify this first of all about the career part, because I'm sure a lot of confusion or a lot of ambiguity exists in this particular area, right? So that will be the career possibilities, right? And as I already told, all these things can be made possible provided you have the right set of skills. Right now, let us talk about the skill part of it. Right. Okay. So let me first talk about the IoT domain. Okay. So as you know, the IoT or any other skill set building journey, I would say you take it as a 4-step. I'll come to the IoT. I think that's the next slide. I just jumped again. If you look at the first and foremost step you need to do is foundational skills. Okay. So what do you mean by foundational skills? So foundational skills are domain independent, right? For example, as a kid, we learn some foundational skills. For example, talking, eating, sleeping, right? Jumping, running, right? These are all the foundational skills for any human being, irrespective of somebody is a president of the country or somebody is a prime minister of the country or it's a normal civilian of the country. Doesn't matter, right? So I would say you should first focus on rather than getting excited about whether I should go to embedded side or IoT side, your focus should be on foundational. So let me tell what is foundation, right? Foundation includes strong programming skills. As I already told, discussed in detail in the chat also, one programming language become a solid hands-on programming skills. One. Second thing is, while you are basically solving the, understanding the programming, get good at problem solving, okay, in terms of algorithms, in terms of data structures, optimization, etc. Okay. So that's going to be your foundation. Then if your foundation is strong, then comes the next layer of getting a domain skills. Okay. When you talk about domain skills, here we are talking about embedded and IoT, right? It can be similarly any domain like, for example, artificial intelligence or machine learning. In fact, by learning Python, a solid foundation in Python, somebody can become a good machine learning engineer also, right? But you cannot become reversed. You cannot say, I will straight away start with machine learning. I will not learn Python. That's not going to work, right? It's like saying, I will learn my division, multiplication first before I solve the problem of calculus. Okay, nobody gave you calculus problem first, right? You learned in your elementary or in your high school, you learned about your fundamental mathematics before you went and started your engineering mathematics, right? The same thing applies here. So don't jump to level 2 without getting good at level 1. In fact, I would say you'll be really surprised. I've seen many placement companies who are hiring from us, and also the companies where some of my very close network of people are hiring. They tell, you know what, if a guy is really good at foundational skills, I can for him or her learning a domain skill is a not at all an issue, right? So that's the importance companies are giving for foundational skills, and I would say you should give a strong focus there. Okay. Then once you build your domain skills, as we discussed, how the company will know that you know them, right? You are a qualified engineer, because everybody can write in the resume, right? That's where, right, you demonstrate projects in form of your resume. You represent it in the finally, and then you go on and obtain your job in the core embedded or IoT industry. So this would be your step that you should. These are all the steps that you should be taking in your journey of transition. Right. Now let us talk about embedded skill set. Okay, so I would say this is a T model. I will use the same model for the IoT skill set also, which is the subsequent slide will follow. Right. So one is basically in the embedded side, get to know something about everything. Right. Or when you are that's more of a horizontal. Right. I know something about everything. Be it about programming, hardware, peripherals. Get an overall idea. Okay. Probably take up a short-term course or even go and do a self-study. You can get exposure or watch some YouTube videos. This will give you enough exposure about what is what. Okay, it's like a doctor, right? You wanted to know the complete human body first before you become an expert. Let us say you are become an ophthalmologist or you become an ortho doctor, right? It's like knowing all the parts of the body. So that's about your horizontals. Then comes the specifics. When it comes to the specific, like you want to become an ortho, etc. Let us talk about the embedded skill set. It includes Linux, right? Similar to as I told about the foundational skills about programming. Okay, when you want to have a career in embedded or IoT, Linux skills is a mandatory domain skills, right? Okay, because Linux again used in across all the embedded systems. In fact, all of you would have heard that almost all the embedded systems that you can think of, right from a Huawei days where we migrated good number of products working on a traditional operating system like VxWorks to the Linux, right? Linux is dominating the embedded world like anything. Okay, so having Linux skills, again, Linux is a very complicated, or I won't say complicated, it's a very vast domain, which includes starting from introduction Linux, Linux internals, then you talk about Linux device drivers, embedded Linux, etc., right? So you at least start with Linux command level, then you move on to at least the what you call Linux internal level, right? Okay, so that is another critical skill set you need to have in your resume, right? So C++ programming, data structures and algorithm are foundational skills, right? Then you want to domain specific skills where we talk about microcontroller programming. In our skill set we basically make the students learn the PIC based controller. So that's going to be your focus. Again, you can ask, should it be a PIC? Can't it be an Arduino? Can't it be a Atmel? I would say, or should I use board X or board Y? I tell people don't bother much about the boards, right? Given the board, how well you can do the programming, you can focus on that, right? Similarly, the Linux internals and networking where you build a multitasking or a OS based embedded system, and finally embedded Linux, right? So this is a QT also you can ignore. So this is a good enough skill set for you to build a base in your embedded. Okay. So once you get hands-on with that, as I told you, it's not necessary that you can go and tell a company that I know. You need to demonstrate these skills. Okay, how do you demonstrate? By building a good base in terms of having 7 to 8 projects in your resume, right? And then you're able to write a multitasking application in any hardware, right? In our case, we are using ARM, and then program using your PIC-based microcontrollers, and finally have a demonstrated Linux-based skill set, right? If your resume looks like this, then definitely it will be an impressive for any recruiter. Okay? And last one is about the ID. ID means integrated development environment and tools, be it in form of writing the source code or debugging the source code. You should demonstrate the usage of tools, right? So this is something which you can consider for having a skill set in your embedded side, right? Let me move on to the other one, which is another highly what do you say discussed topic is about IoT, right? And so before I move on, can I take some questions? Do you have any questions, or are you able to follow what I've been covering in terms of skill set? Can I get some responses in the chat window, please? Okay, Bhavana says following. Okay, Harish says yes, sir. Okay, all right. I think you guys are with me. All right. So let us talk about IoT, right? IoT is again a very interesting topic, especially in the recent years, right? and it is also quite challenging and quite confusing sometimes to comprehend being a fresh engineer. Okay? So I always tell a story to comprehend this IoT. There is a story called Six Blind Men Trying to Explain an Elephant. Right? So let me repeat: Six blind men trying to explain an elephant. Any one of you heard this story? Yes, no? In the last webinar, all of them said no. We didn't heard the story. Okay, Shambhav says no. Bhavana says no. Okay. Anyways, seems to be the similar set of people. So let me tell you this, right? There are six blind men. They're all holding onto different organs of elephant, and they're trying to describe. So one blind man holds to the leg of the elephant, and he says, "You know what? Elephant looks like a pillar. Why? Because he's holding onto the leg." Then another blind man holding onto the trunk of the elephant, and he says, "You know, elephant looks like a snake. Why? Because it's like I'm holding onto the trunk." Another fellow says, elephant looks like a parachute. Why? Because he's holding onto the ears of the elephant. It looks like a parachute. Probably, you know, he can take it and land from a fall, right? Then another person says, you know what? The elephant looks like a similar to a tiger. Why? Because I'm sitting on top of the elephant. Elephant riding an elephant looks like as if I'm riding a tiger, right? So why it has become like that? Because embedded is a very vast domain. It's not a simple thing which you can think of. So it is having almost many technologies coming into picture. So when I say an embedded is more of a device, you know, a particular box which you're building, which I demonstrated in the previous slide. The skill set or the technology used to build that particular box. By the way, if you know the skill set that is shown in the previous slide, you will be able to design and develop an entire box and write the complete software for that. Okay, that is there. So, but now when I talk about embedded, it is not only the device or box, many other pieces come together. So, which makes the IoT far bigger than what we each of us can comprehend. And what is happening today in the market is that people are holding on to one area and then say this is how the IoT looks, like how they are describing about an elephant. Okay. So let me first of all introduce you what are the pieces in the IoT before we get into the skill set part of it. Okay. So the first piece, what we call the IoT device. So the IoT device is a small device, let us say, an use case of let us say the healthcare example which I told, assuming that everybody is going to have a wearable device which will monitor your health situation. So that's a small, tiny device which will be there with everybody. Yeah, Rahul says Wi-Fi module, right? Wi-Fi can be part of that. It's a relatively small with a limited functionality device, right? Okay. Now, when in an IoT, there's going to be a huge deployment. So there'll be a lot of probably few thousands or even few lakhs of devices are going to there. So in order to monitor these devices, then the next piece comes in, which is called as an IoT gateway, right? So what is this gateway is going to do? This gateway is going to basically manage, monitor, and also gather some data from these devices. Let us say the government want to get the healthcare information of these many citizens, right? There will be gateways who will be aggregating this information, right? So that's the second piece. Then once the gateway has that information, it basically uses a network which is nothing but the pre-existing internet or the TCP IP based network. It is going to use that particular network, and by using various protocols. By the way, in IoT, protocols play a lot of role in it. Between the IoT device and gateway, there are set of protocols. For example, Wi-Fi, what Rahul says, in the similar lines, it could be a Bluetooth protocol, but there will be a relatively short range protocol because the devices and gateway are connected at a relatively lesser range, right? But when you go from a gateway to a network or a cloud, right, the range and the data amount of data that is getting transmitted is very high. So those protocols which are using between the device and gateway will not help here. So you need a different set of protocols. So that way you have examples being HTTP, MQTT, COAP. So those type of protocols will come mainly between the gateway and the network, or 2 and 3 in the image, right? Okay, so that's about the protocol, because IoT is all about connecting things, right? So the protocols play a very important role here. Okay? Then finally, when the information is pushed onto the cloud, there is somebody who is receiving that particular information, which you called as a cloud platform or IoT platform. If you look at today, almost all the major companies, be it Microsoft or IBM or Amazon, they all have their own cloud platform where you can straight away get this information from right from a citizen's data, which gets aggregated by a gateway, and it eventually is available in a cloud platform. Finally, that data which reaches that particular cloud need to be interpreted properly. That's where the application comes into picture, right? The application which will interpret this particular thing. It can be a mobile application, it can be a web application, or it can be a custom dashboard. Anything could be. Where by looking at, let us say you are a chief minister of your state, right? You wanted to know how the healthcare information of various districts, or you are a district collector, right? You wanted to know how the patient information or the citizen information are available at a different what do you say taluk level or a ward level, right? So or you said, say you are a central minister or a prime minister or a president, right? So depending on that, you need to comprehend and represent that information so that people can look into the information or data and also take suitable actions, whether it's in form of correction or whether it is form of some kind of financial assistance, right? Recently there was a cyclone happened in the eastern side of the country, right? So should I allocate some funds there? All those decisions I can take by looking into the data. So that's the data representation, or the five, or the number 5 talks about, right? So these are the 5 pieces that makes this IoT solution. Okay. So one important part you need to understand is that you cannot be an expert in all the 5. Okay. It's going to take a long time. In fact, I have not seen a single guy who is excellent in everything, right? It's not possible, because one end I'm talking about an embedded system programming, and another end I'm talking about a mobile application development, right? So you cannot become an expert in everything. So you need to in fact, we also debated a lot before we launched our IoT course, like how we should be designing our course, right? So from your perspective, from an electronic or an embedded system perspective, right? And the same way, I can explain to a computer science engineer also, right? So how do I explain? Okay, as far as an ECE or an triple E engineer, or somebody who's looking at a core job is concerned, okay, I would say you need to be focusing mainly on the box number 1, 2, okay, mainly, and some element about this box number 3 or a circle number 3. Okay, that should be your point of view, right? Your point of view is, how do I build a device? How do I build a gateway? And using network, how can I connect it to a cloud? That should be your focus, right? In the similar way, when I want to explain the same thing to a computer science engineer, he will take a other route. What he will do, he'll start looking at from a, sorry guys, he will start looking at from a application perspective, right? He will say, he will start with 5, 4, and then he will try to understand 3, 2, and 1, right? So I would say you either can focus on 1, 2 mainly, or some extent 3, okay, and then build a skill set here, because majority of you are from the ECE or a embedded perspective, right? And have some knowledge about 4 and 5. Okay, so how do I integrate my gateway to a cloud, right? You need to know that integration knowledge, you need to know the high level knowledge, but you don't need to go and build a cloud platform on your own. That's again a science of itself, right? So my request all of you is that, okay, have a very focused perspective. Having a trying to build a skill set about all the 5, it's not going to work. In fact, many of you would have attended a 2-day workshop on IoT, right? What happens? Nothing happens. Okay, all these 5 pieces exist. That's all. Will that get you a job? Definitely no. Okay, if you are an EC engineer, you need to get good at 1, 2, and 3, and some knowledge about 4 and 5. Okay, so what are those skill set look like, right? Same T diagram which is shown in the embedded skill set, I'll show here also, right? Get exposure about everything, okay, and get deep into one area. Here our focus area is about embedded. So what are you going to do? You need to learn about IoT architecture and knowing about all the pieces, setting up the workflows where you can build an end-to-end workflow, right? From, let us say, somebody citizen's information should be accessed in a dashboard. So how do you configure that? Okay? Get that knowledge. And again, our basics are, our core is on the electronic side. So get really good in advanced C programming. Okay? So, and then learn how to program a IoT device. In this case, we have taken a case of Arduino, right? In the previous embedded, I told about PIC. Here I'm talking about Arduino. Can get a good hands-on perspective. This C programming Arduino, in the previous slide, if you look at, right, the IoT device I spoke about, right? The IoT building an IoT device, the microcontroller programming comes in handy. In a similar line, if you wanted to slightly build a complicated application or a multitasking scenario, you need to learn Python first and then build your application or IoT gateway using a Raspberry Pi, where it will interface with the other devices via a protocol what Rahul has mentioned about Wi-Fi, and connect the required information from that. So that you can build using your Raspberry Pi and Python skill set. And finally, get a high level knowledge about IoT cloud and other two key important aspects like non-functional aspects like security and performance. Again, the learning this skill set is one thing, and important thing is to represent them in your resume. Having the demonstrated projects, and also having a good demonstrated knowledge about protocols. As I told you, in IoT, protocols play a very important role. Okay. So this is about IoT skill set. Okay. Does that clear the idea about IoT, guys? Can you get some responses? Okay. Your focus should be on the embedded and the electronic side, and have this kind of skill set to have that kind of a resume and a career. Is it clear skill set part? Before we move into the last section of the presentation, can I get some responses? Okay, Denim is here, Adarsh. Okay, all right, cool. Okay, I think we are kind of anyways, it's 1.5 hours. Move to the last portion of the slides. Okay. I'm almost done. Okay. So how do we start? You also asked, right, sir, where to start? First step is start using Linux. Okay, I'll show you some links where you can download some materials, right? Whatever it takes, learn starting from installing Linux in your desktop or laptop using a virtual box or a dual booted. Okay, start using it. That's going to be your first step. Second step is, which we discuss in detail, learn one programming language very well. Okay, I would recommend start with C and move on to Python, because if you learn C very well, learning Python becomes far easier. Any object-oriented programming is relatively easier to learn because you'll be straight away using the libraries and modules and packages. Okay, but do the hard work with C. Sweat it out using your C programming. And having C and Python in your embedded or IoT skill set resume is going to be very, very powerful. Okay, learn that. Third one, build 3 to 4 projects at least, if not 7 to 8. Okay, and then finally create an impressive resume, right? Okay, so we have templates and everything available. So let me just quickly come out of the slide, and then I'll show you. Those links are there in the basically in the presentation itself. Let me quickly go to our website and I'll show you where you can find these materials. Let me go to emergy.com. There'll be this link called course materials, and click there. We have something called as a technical resource library. Okay, let it load. Yeah, here you can see a lot of materials that are put in there in form of the course materials. Just navigate through. You can see module wise all the things are there. And if you go to each and every module, there are course materials, sample code, assignments, projects. Some of you discuss about project, interview questions, etc. Booklet, everything is available. It's all freely. Feel free to use it, or if you believe it can be helpful for your friends, feel free to share. This is our contribution towards making the knowledge open and accessible to everybody. You can have even advanced module like Python and Linux device driver. And if you slightly come down, you can even set into check the sections like resume workshop, where there are some presentations about how to build a resume, and there are some templates are available. Resume template, there's a link you can see. You can go there and download a template, and ready-made template available, which you can feel free to use. And some tips and tricks about using or attending technical interview, attending the face-to-face interview. In fact, this material we extensively use for our internal sessions with our students, what you call Disha. The same material is available there also. You can take a look. And even these webinar related resources also, we created a new category ever since we started doing webinars post COVID situation, right? So you can download all these materials there. So yeah, Sandeep, I will be sharing this slide also. Okay, you can, but I'm just showcasing you. You can go to the emergy.com and click this course materials. You can find all of them, and we have some knowledge sharing done in form of blogs as well, right? So this is the link. You can check it out. Okay. And apart from that, I will be sharing you, or rather our team will be sharing you the this recorded video of this session in case you missed something, or some of them are registered but they could not attend. We'll put it in the YouTube and then share you the link to view this video. Okay. Apart from sharing the links, right? What I just shown you. That's the skill growth part. As I told, how we can help. As I told, we are doing this awareness workshops where you can start at least finding a platform to ask your questions, get yourself clarified, and also basically seeking some queries. You can reach out to us, right? We saw resume building and templates. I already shown you this section. Access the library, and our YouTube link is also here. You can go there. There are some tutorials, etc. put up there. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out to my colleague Smita. She is also there in this particular webinar. Mail ID and phone number is given there. You can take a screenshot. I would recommend that. Okay. And even if you have any queries specific to me about your career, about your skill building, etc., you can send a mail to the same email ID. It will reach me, and I'll ensure that your questions are clarified. Okay. So that's the part, right? And we'll move on to the last uninteresting part, which I already mentioned about quiz. I hope I did not make the session like Viru Sahasrabuddhi. I hope you're able to get some good takeaways from this session. Okay. So let me share you the quiz link. I will share in the chat window itself. So it's there in the screen also, but maybe a little difficult for it to type because it's a cryptic URL. Okay. So there is a quiz. You can basically, I'll keep it open for next 1 hour. You can key in your answers there. And even if you have any feedback, I have a specific column for that. You can share your feedback about what you like in this workshop and what you feel can be done better in subsequent workshop, which could be useful for you or your friends, right? You can share the feedback as well. And the winners of the quiz also will be reached out to by our team. They'll collect your postal address. Anyways, we have your mail ID and phone number. We'll also collect your postal address, and once the courier service resumes, we will shipping you, and we'll be making the announcement of winners also by today evening itself. So let me repeat: one, this recorded session of this video; two, the slides used in this video will be reaching you today. By today evening, the quiz winners also will be announced. My team will be collecting the postal address also, so that we'll be shipping you the goodies once the situation becomes better, right? So Sandeep is asking, when is the next seminar? You can check with my colleague Smita. They schedule the seminar, and I do the delivery part of it, right? You can keep in touch. We keep doing it, okay, regularly on a time to time basis, depending on her plan. You can get in touch with her, but we keep doing that on a regular basis. Okay. So that's it, guys. You can go ahead and basically take up this quiz. And if you have any questions, I'll be available for some more time. You wanted to ask the question in chat, you can ask, or if you wanted to basically even want to come online and talk with me, I'm fine with that. Okay. Is that I think almost 12:40 now. Any other questions you can post, or you can just share how did you find this webinar. You can just share your comments also in the window. Can you get some responses? How did you find this workshop? Any queries? Feel free to type in. Can I get some responses? Yeah, thanks, Sandeep. He's saying it is a good exposure. Any comments, queries? Feel free to type. Okay, Denim. So appreciate, Denim. You've been joining us from Far East, from Manipur. It's really motivating to see somebody taking seminar from Far East. Given that I do have very close friends from Far East, northeast of the country. we very much understand the challenges, and good to see that aspiration and the motivation that you attend this webinar. Really appreciate you, Denim, especially you. Uh, yeah. Any other comments, queries? Can I get some responses, guys? Okay. Think not much. Looks like. I'll be available. You can post it. And okay. Rahul says, thanks for a good direction towards your career. Others say it was a wonderful session. Thanks, guys. It was good. Thank you so much, sir. And if you don't mind, again, if you don't mind, if you can just switch on your cameras now. Anyways, we are done with the workshop. I'll stop sharing, or at least I can say hi to you guys. Let me stop sharing. If you wish, you can turn on your video. At least I get to see your faces. Okay, Darshan says good idea. Bhavana says you got a good idea, overall idea, etc. Okay, can I see some faces? I have stopped sharing. At least I say hi to you, some of you. I'll unmute all of you. You can share. You can see some faces. Can I? Oh, okay. Rahul is here. Hi, Rahul. Denim is here. Hi, Denim. Okay. Any other faces? Because sometimes we keep listening and we don't see face to face. These days it's hard to see human faces also. We're all locked up, right? Okay. I think only those many opened up. That's fine. I don't want to force you. Yalini says, sir, due to connectivity problem, audio is not properly. No issues, Yalini. Yeah, as you said, the same video, we'll share it maybe in few hours, you will expect. By end of the day, we'll share everything. Okay, you can go through the same video, recorded one. Any queries, you can reach out. Yeah, Shambhavi says, very informative, importance of Linux. Nagendran says, thank you for the good information. Okay. All right, folks, it's been a pleasure meeting you. So thank you very much for joining in. Please take the quiz and win some prizes also. I would be hearing your feedback also. And take care, stay safe, follow the guideline given by your local government. Let us not do any exciting or unwanted stuff. The primary goal is to stay safe. Okay, so stay safe. Take care of you and your family. All the best to all of you. Signing off now. See you later. Bye.